So, ladies and gentlemen, fanboys and girls, nerds, weebs, and otaku, welcome back and welcome home.
Well, hello there, Apple Bites. This is your Apple Bite Written Writ Ralph talking to you straight from our show here, The Written Writ, a show where you and you geek out, have fun, and get to know things or get creative. And today we got a plethora of people hanging out with us, having fun, getting ready to geek out. See, all those people over there. Wait, all the people over there.
See, that's why you got to mirror your camera so you can point in the right direction when you want to point at people.
I don't know, man. I like my Brady Bunch. I mean, other side way to go. Over here we have Mr. Fish, who is my co-host because Shannon is in the middle of a photo shoot and I'm not sure if she's going to be able to make it on time.
Yeah, I'm lucky. Nobody wants to take my picture.
Oh man, folks, it is great to have you guys on. Some of you guys have been dying to have on the show for a while. Some of you I've been wanting to get back on the show for a while. Oh man, so Mr. Fish, what you been up to?
Man, I have been cranking out books left and right. I have been working on client books. I've been running Kickstarters. I've been ordering books. I've got a Kickstarter live right now for Fish Tales Volume 2, my anthology book, which has 3 different stories from across the Mr. Fish Comics multiverse. It has a little bit of Alice Lost in Wonderland in it. It has a new story from the world of Green Zone that is illustrated and co-written by my son, Barely, which I'm super excited about. He did an amazing job on this B-Team story, which follows a group of it's a group of agents that work for the superhero agency, and they fill in when the big heroes are out of town. So, like when Captain Atomic's off planet and one of his villains takes over a bank and is threatening to kill hostages if he doesn't show up, you send in the B-Team. And there's this group of oddballs that are good at impersonating heroes. Like there's an alien that's a protomorph that can change into anything. Doesn't have any of the powers, but he can really get the look and the sound right. He's really good at impersonation. He's actually on work release from jail for impersonating people. And
love it.
Then there's this other kid who's big and buff and strong and almost indestructible, looks nothing like him. So if he's going to come in, he has to wear a mask. And so they have to pick and choose who they're going to send in for each mission. And then there's a story about Kess there with the spear from the world of the Mighty Caw. And it shows how she became a warrior and shows more about the world that the Mighty Caw just crash landed on and the other clans and stuff that live on the planet. So you really get to see more of what this world's like and what the prophecies are about this mighty warrior that was going to overthrow the whole world and all this stuff. It's lots of cool stuff. That one's written by my buddy T.S. Luther. And we introduced Eddie, the fish guy from Green Zone, as the narrator of the book. So now we have somebody, I have somebody to play with and crack jokes with and break the fourth wall. And, and he's so funny because he's such this curmudgeon-y kind of guy that doesn't really belong in these fantasy settings. So it's really funny to stick him there and put him in out of his comfort
I was
zone.
going to say you can see that in this little animation over here, because he looks all like uncomfortable.
Oh yeah. Like there's one scene where you turn the page and it was ending from one story going into the next, and it was going to be this little intro for Eddie for the next story. And it just hit me, like, turning the page, like, that's going to make him sick. Like, he's going to get seasick from that change. And he really likes to play up that he's not a fish, even though he might look like it. He's not a fish. And he doesn't know how to swim or any of that. And so it was so much fun. I enjoyed him so much.
It's so funny, and I'm going to jump right into writing right away here, because we have these characters that we like, and we tend to make them narrators, or they kind of tell the story. And do you find that your narrator is the person that's in the story, or are they watching the story, or do you have that voice where you're just telling the story and nobody's really narrating? Anybody can answer.
For me, it depends on the story. Like, it depends on the situation. Like in Alice, she's usually the one doing a lot of the narration, because she's reading this off in her head and explaining who these people are to her, because she's the main central character. Like in Green Zone, it's more, just a basic narrator explaining, like, time has changed. We're in a different part of town. It's, really pretty limited on that.
So, firstly, let me say you sold me on it. I just backed the campaign.
My man,
and
thank you.
I picked the KAAW catch-up tier, the physical one. So I got the best one you had on offer. So,
oh man, yeah, that's a fun story, man.
But to answer the question, this is just like a personal choice for me as a writer. And I don't know why I do this to myself. I'm a crazy person, but I try to stay away from narration, not because I think it is bad, because my style of writing is drop the reader into the story and let them catch up as everybody else is. Mm-hmm. So if I do exposition, I don't do that. There's sometimes where you just have to, but really the whole style of Everborn is drop you into the story. You'll catch up just by these characters that are talking to each other as though they've known each other for years. And hopefully, if I've done my job, I don't leave people behind. But I'm told that sometimes I do leave people behind, and I don't know why I've put this rule on myself. But we stay away from narration wherever we can. So it does happen. But the way I try to do it when it does happen is, it's someone that's actually talking to someone else off screen.
Oh, okay.
I don't do
Yeah.
You don't do like internal
monologues. We don't do.
Yeah, that's pretty much all I do. It's a lot of thinky characters, but yeah, mostly like when I write, it's a lot of we have a lot of multiple POVs usually in the books that we write, and we tend to go into like a tight third person, so it's always in the character's head. And it's a lot like if we're trying to give information, it's through the character, so it's through characters talking, or it's something the character's doing. Try just not to drop the exposition, but always like to do it through character interaction if we can.
Well, I do want to be clear, though. Exposition is very good, and it's very, I mean, obviously it's cerebral, right? but I do think it works very well, especially like you write novels, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So if you're writing a book, like a book is exposition, right? So you can't. You can't get away from it, but
we don't want the book to be too wordy.
Not too many words.
I know what you're talking about, though, because in comic books, we have the artist there to show everything that
Mm-hmm.
and I've had this discussion with a couple of friends where they give me their script, and I'm like, so wait, are you explaining this to the artist, or are you gonna leave this in the story? And they're like, oh, I'm leaving that in the story. Why? Because if the artist does his job, half the stuff you're explaining,
you don't need it.
You
Yeah.
don't.
Right. Right.
Oh, I should say that too. There's a whole bunch of exposition dumps in my scripts. They just don't make it out to the,
right.
to the reader.
Oh yeah, because that comes in handy for the artist. The artist needs to know all that stuff, and it's so funny because people go, "Oh, a script is the same thing as a Hollywood script," and I'm like,
No,
not really, because I feel like in the Hollywood script, you're not really explaining unless you're one of those kinds of writers, you're not explaining the shot per shot. You know, and that's what you're doing in comics. You're explaining shot per shot,
and you're not explaining the set design and all that stuff in a script. And it's also not a novel. I have had clients try and hand me a full novel and be like, just turn it into a 24-page comic. And I'm like, no, you turn it into a script for a comic, or you pay me to do it, but that's going to cost you a lot more money.
You know, it's interesting you said what you said about explaining each shot. When I first started this thing, and we are, I don't know, 6 years into this journey of comics now, but 10 years total, because this all started as a mobile video game.
Exactly.
Because again, I'm a crazy person. I was working on a sequel to a game that was on the Windows Phone. And when Windows Phone went away, I didn't know what I was going to do with all this stuff. And so I said, let me turn it into this story. But
I thought that was a winner too. I always bet on the wrong horse. Sorry.
No,
I digress.
Same thing. It's the same. That's why I was an Xbox fan. But anyway, I lost my train of thought.
You're working on the sequel for the game for the Windows Phone.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. So turned into a comic. This is something I went back and forth with the first artist that brings this to life for me. There's a team. There's different artists now because we have different series. But Francis Martellino, I tried to explain every panel, and he was like, "Stop that. This is not going to work." So he told me, give him a script that just tells him what happens on the page and what the characters are saying, and then he will do the layouts, and then obviously I'll approve them. There'll be rough sketches, but he had to break me out of trying to explain what happens in each shot and each angle. He's like, that is my job. So I've gotten better about it now, but I know, and I've seen some scripts from friends, they explain every panel, and I'm like, as long as your artist is okay with that.
And every artist is different. Some people need the instruction.
Yep.
I love the freedom personally. Like, if you tell me the main points that need to happen on the page and the main emotional beats and what people say, I can give you the coolest thing I can imagine. If you give me, like, I need 6 panels from this angle, and this needs to be a worm's eye view, and this is a bird's eye view, and this guy's on the right, and this guy's on the left, I can give you the best version of that I can give you, but I can't give you the coolest thing I could come up with. And
yeah, that's
I like
the
that
thing.
freedom.
If I'm gonna do all of that, I might as well draw it myself, and I can't draw. But I like my scripts now will be like it goes through a process. So I'll say here, and by the way, our books are like minimum 60 pages, again, because I'm a madman, but I will say here is like 30 pages of key moments and all the dialogue that has to happen. And then they will lay that out, and that 30 something pages will turn into 60 pages. And then I will go and look at those panels and kind of rewrite a little bit. So each panel has, what it's supposed to do.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's more just, here's what's happening. I'm not writing it like a Hollywood script, but I'm not writing it like a traditional comic script at all. It's just, here's what I want to accomplish by the end of this issue.
Yeah, that's actually what happened with my story. I started off as my story started off as a movie script. And it took me about a year and a half to work on it. And boy, was I in for a surprise when I started meeting artists, just like you said, Everborn. They looked at it and said, what is this? Camera direction, sounds, all that, So it took me a while to really adapt to, making it into a comic strip. But what really helped me is my artist background, because I am an artist. I'm a graffiti artist. And I knew exactly how I wanted the shot. And particularly, I even was down to what colors I wanted. So thankfully for me, I got some good artists that understood, the way I work, and it really worked out well.
Yeah, I mean, there are some shots that like I fight for. So like I'll get a layout and I'm like, okay, this is good, but we need like this needs to be a hero shot, or this needs to convey some emotion. So we need to do an insert of a close up if you don't want to change this very cool layout that you have. And then my letterer is always fighting with my artist, because she's like, because he's basically doing it in kind of manga style, and the layouts are a little bit different, even though we are going left to right and not right to left. But she's always like, the reader's eye is not going to go here in the next panel. And so it's a whole thing.
And it's funny that you say that, because a lot of people don't think about any of this. They sit there and go, "It's a comic. You did this and this and this and this," and they don't think about any of the work that goes into this.
Yeah,
sure. It's a lot.
Sure.
Yeah, the biggest thing that someone said to me, and it's so true. You will spend a year working on something that someone is going to read in about 10 to 15 minutes.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it's your blood, sweat, and tears.
Do you guys ever
That had a
worry,
huge
though?
impact on my art right there
Right.
at that point.
Yeah, correct. But do you guys ever worry about, you have so many hands in on this that it kind of goes away from your original vision? Like if you could really pinpoint whatever the story was in your head when you originally, the germ of the idea, and then you have all these different hands and ideas on it through collaboration. Do you ever worry of like, is that end product exactly what you envisioned in the beginning?
I thought I would have a lot of trouble with that. And usually, like for my own books, I'm doing everything other than the editing, because I can't see my own mistakes to save my life.
Right.
But like, if you handed me a script, like I'll do everything and I'll hand you back a finished book, and that has worked out really well. But I thought it would be really hard to let go and let somebody else color or somebody else ink or do this, or have somebody else illustrate, like my son did one of the stories in this. And I was worried about not being in control and it not being the way I imagined and not being from the angle I would have done. But he did such cool stuff and I really enjoyed it. And it's so different than what I would have done. And when I let go and let my buddy TS like write stories for my worlds, he wrote really cool stuff, and it's funny and it's cool, and it took what I had already planned and then made it better, which is what I try and do when you hand me a script, is take what you give me and make it as awesome as I can possibly make it and give it back. And, if our imaginations are running on the same tracks and we think the same things are cool, like we're going to be like, oh, well, what if we did this? Oh yeah. And then what if we did this? And what if we did that?
Yeah.
And when our imaginations go in different directions, it's like pulling teeth the whole time. And it's so frustrating. It is so frustrating.
Sure.
But man, when it works right, man,
Yeah,
it is so good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I would say I'm lucky in that way. The people that I have worked with, Mike Banting, who's the line artist for Ariel's Adventure in the Redlands, and then, like I said, Francis, who is the artist for Prince of Arcadia, and then we have another book coming out next year, The Remnant, which is Albert, who also does the colors on everything. Like we got to work together mostly because I was like fans of them, and they've just made my stuff so much better.
Yeah.
Right. Like, so, before you start, like when it's all in your head, you think about, oh my God, they're going to change what I'm doing.
Right.
But when you're, like you said, when you're working with the right people, they have just plussed my stuff so much that we've really got a good synergy going, like you said. So I'm always excited to see what they do with the scripts. And it's very rare that I'll say, you should change that. And even when I say that, it is just to to plus a moment. It's not to change, what they've done. So, but again, I know it's not always like that.
That's a big deal right there. Cause like I've worked with clients where it's like, okay, well, no, we need to change this to make it match up with my plans for future books. Like, this is a cool idea, but it's going to derail what happens in, issue 4. Absolutely. We need to do that. And, no problem. I will change it back. But then there's also those people like, no. That's not you're playing pretend wrong with my toys. That's not the way we do it here. When you have that great improv and like, you can yes and to the ideas and you can make it bigger and better. And but some people can't do that. And I thought I would be that dude. I didn't think I would be able to let go. But now that I've found some people that I trust to work with that, now I'm like, yeah, take the toys, play with them, have fun. I want to see what you come up with.
Yeah, this is another thing. Like I'm typically on like theme and dialogue, but if I've got a fight scene, I'll be like, okay, they're gonna fight. This guy's gonna lose, and then he'll come back with like 10 pages. Okay. And I'm like, all right, nice. I got to throw some dialogue on this.
That's a good flow there, though.
Yeah, and I never try to, other than who's gonna win or who has a moment, right? I never really try to direct the action because they're just so good at it, and they're so good at thinking about how to encapsulate moments of a battle that I would just do them a disservice by getting in between that stuff. I'm here to tell a story. You are gonna make this fight scene look cool.
Sure. Sure.
Lauren, let me ask you, because you work with a co-writer, right?
Yeah.
So how does that work? Because I feel like that's the same thing we're talking about here. You guys are talking story. How are you guys able to craft that?
Yeah, it's actually very similar to the process that you guys have been talking about. It's like it's a constant back and forth. Matt and I love to brainstorm together, so it's really great because it's the person who gets what we're trying to do. Like we're both trying to do the same thing, we're both on the same page, and we're just like, let's go. So usually what'll happen is we'll, depending on what we're writing, one of us will either write a draft and the other one will kind of look at it and then we'll go over it together. But a lot of times we'll just kind of outline it together and brainstorm it out. And then one of us will kind of write a rough draft and go back and forth. But it really depends. Like it was a very long and weird journey for the trilogy that we wrote. And I'm not going to get into that story because I wouldn't ever recommend anybody write a trilogy that way. But a lot of times now on books that we've been working on lately, we'll actually just like chapter by chapter go back and forth. So it's really fun. So we'll literally just like discuss the current chapter, what we want to happen. And then one of us will write it. And then we kind of like keep going back and forth. And it's fun because then you're like, I want to read the chapter when it's done. And the other person's like, all right, I want to finish it so we can talk about the next one. So, it's a really nice synergy that we have. And it's a lot, I love brainstorming personally. Like I want to talk. I want people to play in the sandbox. Like I want to be excited. So so it's really great that I have somebody to talk to because writing novels can be kind of lonely sometimes.
Oh, definitely.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's something I picked up from some friends recently. Like over the last couple of years, I've got a couple of trusted friends that will just hit each other up when we're trying to write like an outline or something for the next book. And we'll just play it off of each other and we'll talk about like, okay, these are the beats that I know I need to hit. And I got to get from here in the last issue to here where I need the next issue to take off. And we'll just talk it out and figure out where it goes. And we'll work the outline out where we're talking. And I was just doing this with a buddy of mine. And we ended up plotting out what's probably the most epic book I've worked on out of 99 books that I've worked on in 6 years. And it's not even one of mine. And I don't get to illustrate it or nothing. Like, he's like, well, I'm going to give you a special thanks credit. I was like, I bet because I'm counting it as 99 because it's freaking epic. And I got to add so many cool little ideas into the mix as we were talking it out. And you know, it was so much fun to do that together that like I've started doing it on my own books, and just having somebody to talk out those ideas with helps me get it done now and have fun doing it rather than let the anxiety get to me. They're like, oh man, I got to sit down and outline that. I got to get that script together. Now it's just fun. It's hanging out with my buddies, you know, talking make believe, man. It's awesome.
I know, it's so great. It's funny to me because a lot of times I feel like some, you know, authors get a little protective of their ideas and stuff, and they are like, you know, I can't. Then it's not mine anymore, and I'm like, it's not how it works. Like, you can talk about stuff, you can get ideas, you can bounce ideas. This is all
what if they steal my precious idea?
Yeah, or like, oh, but what if they said that thing and then I didn't come up with that idea? It's like, it's okay. This is all good. This is how brainstorming works. This is how people come up with ideas. Like, talk about it. It's fun. Like, it's fun to brainstorm. So I feel like I work much better in a room than I do on my own.
Yeah.
It's so funny because D&D actually taught me that really well, because when you're doing D&D, it's not just your story. Right. Especially as a DM, it's not just your story. You need to flesh this thing out so other people can play. So you have to sit there and listen to what their story ideas are. And it's one of those, I think that taught me the whole writing thing better than writing itself. Because, you know, we all have that fear that somebody's going to come in and go, it is mine now because you told me about it.
Right.
Yeah. I talk to a lot of people because I do believe everyone has an epic story in them.
Yes.
All of us, right? It's just, you know, we just have to kind of write it. We have to put pen to paper and, you know, put it out in the world in whatever way we do. But that is one of the number one concerns I hear from new people that are trying to get into storytelling.
Yeah.
And the thing that I always say is, look, there are no new ideas, right? No one's gonna steal your stuff. And if they are, you are stealing something from someone. It is not the idea, it is how you put it together, and only you can tell your story, right? So don't worry about that. Don't worry about that you have this super special idea that no one has thought of, right? Everything is execution. Everything is put pen to paper, put it out. And for most people, the first thing you do is going to be bad, and you shouldn't worry about that. Just do it anyway. And each iteration you do, you will get better. But
absolutely. I always say your first book's going to suck. It's okay. All of our first books suck in one way or another. Like, you've got to learn from those mistakes. And those are some of the best mistakes you're going to make, because you're never going to forget those mistakes once they went out in print. And you're going to remember that lesson forever.
That is, by the way, you talked about not editing. That is when I noticed all of my mistakes right after print. Happens every time.
Wow.
Doesn't matter how many editors you sent at it. Doesn't matter how many people you had look over that puzzle. Nobody noticed that one answer didn't have enough spaces in it. In somebody's book about a Tourette superhero. I'm not pointing any fingers, but
but I appreciate what you said, Everborn. You're so right. Everything is derivative, right? I mean, if you think of music, for example, in the end of the day, it's really just like 6 chords for like popular music that just keeps getting rehashed. So in a sense, it's kind of comforting for a writer, because you don't really have to think of something so innovative, because in a sense, everything is derived. You just got to put yourself in it. Like you said, Everborn, everyone has their own story. But in some cases, though, some of us, we all have our own epic story. That I agree. But some of us may have a movie in us. Some of us may have just a poem. Some of them may just have a lyric. So we have to kind of find what the right road is to what our, the story inside us is.
And that's my problem. It's all inside of me. The poem, the movie, the book, the comic. It's all in there trying to break its way out.
It's trying to pick which one to do first.
Exactly.
What gets me is the whole mentality of like, well, what if somebody steals my rip-off Batman idea? And, and the whole like, well, I don't know. Like, I'll let you work on my book for free, and I'll give you like 2% of the movie rights, but not any of the toy sales, because that's going to make me too much money. And they're worried about all of this future fame and how they're going to deal with it. I was like, dude, you ain't even made your book yet, man. You need to tell a story and tell it well and regularly and get good at making books before you worry about about being the 1 in a million that gets famous, dude.
Yep.
It's so funny because I've been working on my teddy bear superhero for a while, and my friends will come up to me and go, "Oh my god, I saw this other teddy bear superhero," and I'm like, "I'm not worried about it." And they're like, "Why are you not worried about it?" It's like it's not my teddy bear superhero. And when I go look at it, it's nice. It's a good story, but it has nothing to do with what I'm trying to do.
Yeah.
Does it have similarities? Probably, but
all those things we bring to the stories make it so much more interesting. Like I was working on a story for a friend of mine, and we were tossing ideas around, and his idea was basically just his character was a monster trying to be a hero. He was going to be attacked by another monster of the week, and as we started talking about where did the monster come from and all this stuff, it ended up becoming this complex story of like two brothers being abused by dad, and one of them broke out and got away, and the other one stayed home and took the abuse. And now years later,
wow.
This evil scientist still wants the original monster back because he's better. And it's like, I stayed at home and took dad's abuse all this time, and he still loves you more. And this dude's coming out to kill him for that, and like, that is so much cooler and deeper because of like things I've lived through and stuff I've seen my friends and my family and other people go through, and all of that gets wound together and makes it a much more interesting tale I can tell than just a monster of the week. Anybody can do that.
Yeah.
Well, it's like I was asking you, Ralph, the other day, right? Ralph saw Wild Robot, which is similar to mine, and I tell you, I was going to throw myself off a bridge when I heard about that story. But thank goodness, Ralph talked me off the bridge. It's like, no, Eddie, there's big differences.
Oh no. There's a huge difference between what you're doing, Eddie, and the Wild Robot. Two totally different things.
Appreciate that. Oh my gosh, I was going to end it all.
Oh man, I'm here to tell you. That happens so many times too. Like I'll be working so hard on an idea for a story, and then like Image will come out with a book that looks so similar, and I'm like, dang. All right, I'm gonna shelve this idea for a little while and come back to it later when it doesn't feel like I'm somebody's gonna say I'm ripping them off because I'm publishing a story I worked on for 20 years.
Exactly.
This is also incentive for new writers or creators. Just put the stuff out, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you put it out and it's bad, no one can say that you took it from them if you had it out first.
Yeah,
that's true.
Right.
So,
So
I had
a feeling that our conversation was going to get interesting and full. So let's get back to trying to sell some stuff for you guys. Lauren, tell the people, since I have your stuff up here and I'll put it back up, give them the spiel. Go for it.
Oh, cool. Yeah, so I wrote a trilogy of novels with my writing partner, Matt, and they were just published this year. So these are debut novels, science fiction trilogy. It is completed. They're all there. You can buy them all on Amazon. Real quick, 300 years in the future, corporations have taken over the role of governments. It is cheaper to gene splice their citizens to the new environments that they're discovering instead of terraforming planets. So we have this 12 different variants of humanity. And there's something weird going on with the newest gene splice. So our kind of everyday Joes are getting pulled into this conspiracy and have to discover what's going on before it's too late. So that just came out this year in April. So we're really excited about that. I just had a short story published in an anthology this month in September. It's called Blood Fiction Volume 3. So for spooky times, if anybody wants to read some spooky stories, that's in there. And we've been doing a lot of book signings. We're going to be at LA Comic-Con this weekend, actually. So, we're just trying to peddle our wares as such, and drum up some interest in our little space opera.
So wait, you I know you mentioned it a little bit, but I feel like how do you start off with a trilogy?
Oh, it's such a long story. So I will try to keep this as brief as possible. This universe started as a tabletop role-playing game. Matt and I, you can see some of the artwork that I've done here. Actually, you just got my website up. That's cool. It started as we were designing a role-playing game And we got so far as to, we had some mechanics, we had a couple of missions set up, and we were testing character creation. And I made a character that I liked so much that I wrote like 40,000 words about him. And then I was like, oh no, what do I do? What do I do with this? So that was kind of the start of this trilogy. So I kind of had a story in mind that Matt and I, we outlined and we worked out, and he kind of had a story in mind in the same universe that he kind of worked out. And then, so we both ended up writing novels. And then we were like, what do we do with these two novels that are kind of in the same place, but not about the same people? So we had to like go back and rework it and blend them together. And so now we have this kind of cool Game of Thrones thing going on where there's multiple storylines and they all start to converge together towards the end of the book. So it was a lot of reworking, but we kind of ended up with three novels worth of material. And then we kind of had to make it into a trilogy. So it was a weird process. I don't recommend it.
You know, as soon as you said that you were working on a role-playing game, all of it made sense. The whole game,
right?
Because
it all makes sense.
As a DM, I've had games where we don't get to half the stuff that I've created for the game, and you sit there going, "Oh well, what am I going to do with this stuff?"
Yep.
I quit making complex game plans years ago because they never stick to it. I start out with like a rough idea for what the bad guy is going to be, and then we just go, because they're always going to take a left turn when I want to go right, or jump off a cliff when I want them to go left. Right. So, yeah, whatever you want to do.
I gotta say, when I was doing my deep diving to see what else I can find about Lauren, I was like, oh, I see the role play aspect. I see this. I see that. I was like, okay, I can see where everything comes from now. It's so funny. I tell people all the time, once you start researching, and this is even a big thing with, because we're writers, we were supposed to research. I think it's a lost art now. But because people will tell you something and they're like, I don't know anything about that. I'm like, that doesn't mean you can't write about it. It just means you got to go research it. And as I was researching, I was like, oh look, there's where all the little bits and pieces go together.
Yeah, there's a lot of nerd if you go looking for it.
I gotta say, it should be interesting for you folks who are out there in California and to go check you out, because you are going to be at the convention, so that's a good way to one of the things that we love here is as you can see by all the stuff we do with conventions, is we love going to the convention. We love the conversation that happens at the table, because and that's what we try to emulate here, is that conversation from the table that happens at a convention. And folks, if you get a chance to see anybody that's on the show, go check them out, go talk to them. You'll get way more information than you think you will.
We're pretty friendly.
Exactly.
To a fault. Sometimes I'll have people at my table for an hour, wondering how many sales did I miss while we're having fun talking about old TV shows or whatever.
Oh my God. All right, Eddie. You touched upon it a little bit. Tell the people some more stuff about what we can expect from your beautiful project. Go for it.
Okay, appreciate it. Okay, excellent. So End of Zed is a story. My name is Eddie Lima. I'm the writer-creator of End of Zed. And End of Zed is a story about a robot who crash lands in the South Bronx in 1982. That's the South Bronx, not the Wild. So it's not, it's not Wild Robot, That's right. I like to call my comic. I like to call my comic Wild Robot meets the Warriors, right? If you guys ever saw the Warriors, that's the kind of tempo and feel that I have of it,
That's a good way to explain it.
Yeah, absolutely. So he crash lands, badly damaged, no memory, and he has to navigate through probably one of the most turbulent time in the city's history. 1982 saw the negative things like the birth of the crack epidemic, for example, but it also saw the positive side of the birth of the hip hop culture, which ushered in new music and new art, as well as like new fashion. So he has to uncover his origin, and ultimately we'll find out his purpose through this journey. So I had a really great time writing it. Really great artists helped me work, because I'm a regular artist, not a sequential artist, and they really helped me to come in to fine tune exactly what this vision is. And particularly with Zed himself, it took us about maybe 6 months to do his design, his character design, because that was super important to the story, not only in this issue, but in subsequent issues. It's going to really come into play, his aesthetic and his look.
I got to say, from what I'm looking at, you've given me a lot to look at. You've done a great job when it comes to getting that aesthetic. It feels like the 80s. It feels like graffiti. Right. And at the same time, it doesn't. So, I know people are out there going, what? You got to check it out, folks. It feels just like what he's talking about. And it just has this beautiful meld of feelings, of art. It's really beautiful.
Excellent. Appreciate that, Ralph. And please hit the notify me to launch button. We just opened this up yesterday, so the more people we get on that, I would really appreciate it. And I could show you a little bit of my site, Ralph, if that's okay.
Yeah, go for it. So you see that present button on the button?
Yep.
Right. Yep. If you press it, you should be able to show me whatever you need to show me.
Correct. Perfect. So
it's always an option when we do the show. Sure. There we go.
All right. Excellent. So as I mentioned, Kickstarter is coming out soon. I'm a little bit, there's going to be a short window between when I launch the pre-launch page and the actual Kickstarter. So please, again, hit that notify button. And it's a Robots Odyssey, Survival, Discovery, and Purpose. So starts October 23rd. I think it's the week after Comic-Con. So we're psyched for that. As I mentioned before, it's about a robot who lands in the middle of the city, 1982. I got some sample pages here, which really kind of shows the direction that we were looking for. This, like the Warriors, right? This story takes place all in one night. So it's very important to me that we hit the colors right and we hit the action right. And right from the beginning, it's really action packed. And again, I could not have done this myself. I got the help of a great team. The great team of Lucas Assist. He was the pencil and inks. G. Sabino, who was the colorist, and then Mattia Zanetti was the letterer. And I don't have him here, but the editor, certainly he should be up here, Brian Zanzanago. I have a Instagram page that I opened up a couple of years ago, and I actually this is what I drew of the comic book, so you can kind of see the origins of it. So you can see the difference of where it was and where it ended up. Again, excellent artists, so much respect for these comic artists of how they can take the vision and bringing it into the final piece. And again, please sign up for the Kickstarter. I would appreciate that.
The colors are beautiful.
It's all beautiful. Whew.
Appreciate it. And again, the colors are super important to the story. The story had to be, it all takes place at night. So my artists and my colorists are from Brazil, and I was very sensitive to that. They have very good eye for colors, and you can see how it pops through the night. So certainly, I really appreciate their work, and I think it really comes through. So going off the bridge, Ralph. I'm not going to jump off any bridges. I see the difference now.
Don't worry. I'm going to keep talking you off that bridge.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, as soon as you showed it to me, and as soon as I saw a little bit of this, I was already all over him going, so what's going to happen? When's the Kickstarter? What are you doing?
Sure. So wish me luck. I tell you, I'm hearing some things about, I'm a first timer, right? So I get a lot of my information from online and different comic creators, and then Kickstarter itself is its own beast, that you have to kind of figure out in terms of, the algorithm and when's the best time to actually create your campaign, when's the best time to end it. And there's so much going on at the end of the year. You want to do before Black Friday. You want to be careful, of course, of the election year. People may not be in this comic mood. So there's so many different things. So no matter how much hard work you did in the beginning, who knows how it's going to end up. But I got a good feeling about it because really the response from people has been tremendous. And so I really think that it's gonna pick up something. I think it's gonna go somewhere. I really do.
It's like everything else. You got to get that first one out. Sometimes the first one may not do what you want it to do, but that first one helps out a lot.
Sure.
Yeah, and it's getting it out and getting it funded. That's the most important thing. Like, I was so worried. I ran the numbers 6 ways to Sunday. I was so worried, well, what if it goes viral and makes $1 million at this tier? Like, would I still be able to get it? Turns out that wasn't the issue I had to worry about. The issue I had to worry about was getting it funded at all. Yeah. And, nobody had heard about it. Nobody knew who I was. And so, that was a big deal.
But did you secure the toy right? This is the important
there
part.
You go.
Yeah, I still got the toy right. Nobody's come asking yet, but I've still got them. Yeah.
But I tell you, what a tremendous community. The indie comic community is something else that I've never experienced before. I've had so much help along the way from not only, people like Ralph who, reach out and I talk to him and help me with making decisions and kind of getting me ready for what's going to come next, but the community itself. And it's interesting because when you think about, how divisive our culture is, right? And how, we're such a competitive culture. It is amazing that within the indie comic community, it's the opposite. People are so willing to help you. And it's amazing. I'm so surprised. And I've made friends that I'll have probably for the rest of my life.
Oh yeah. I mean,
Absolutely.
so many of my best friends now are people that I worked with on a job or hired me for something at one point. Now we do podcasts together or, whatever. Like it's so crazy how cool almost everybody is.
Right.
There are some folks out there that aren't so easy to work with, but most of us are like, oh yeah, dude, you want to know like what printer I use? Absolutely, man. Here, I'll send you that.
Right.
And this is where I got the acrylic standees from, and it's really cool. And I figured this out when I did it, and I made this mistake, and I had to fix it. And like everybody is so nice and helpful.
I signed on with the publisher ASAP Imagination, and I'm sure you guys heard of Hades and all of them. I signed on with them a couple of weeks ago, and again, they're the epitome of what this culture is. They're so friendly, so open arms, and really helping me along every step of the process. And so, you don't find that in the outside world. I've never found anything similar to that. So, it's amazing.
All right.
So, this is a question for everybody, I think. How do you approach marketing, right? And what aspect does marketing
What was that word?
play?
I don't recognize that.
What marketing? It sounds weird.
So
you mean like grocery shopping? Okay, yeah.
Yes,
you get a list from the
supermarketing.
wife. You try not to go off of it too far.
Yes. But so what, like, publish, because like for the Everborn stuff, we publish ourselves. We funded ourselves for the most part, and we advertise ourselves, right? And something that I'm learning, this is advice I got very early on, but I didn't really grok it until now, which is find the audience you want to talk to. Your audience cannot be people who like comic books, right? Your audience cannot be people who are into sci-fi, right? You need to find it's the concept of niches for riches, but you need to find out exactly who you are talking to and hyper focus on them.
Yeah.
That should be your social interactions. That should be telling a story that speaks to that group. And if you can do that up front, it'll be easier for you to find success than either telling a story that is so general because you think you're Walt Disney, or telling a story that is so obscure that you don't know really who it is for other than your vanity project, right? Like, we're making these things to put them in the world. How do you find who you're talking to?
Great question.
That is such a good question. It's really funny because we wrote these books during the pandemic mostly. So it did kind of end up just being something that we wanted to do. We weren't necessarily writing them for anybody else. We're like, we're actually, Matt and I are TV and film writers. So there was nothing happening during the pandemic. And then there was a writer's strike. There's still nothing happening right now. So we're like, man, we're really glad we wrote these books. So we have these books and we wrote them, and we were lucky enough to find a publisher, Athon Books. And we had no idea, like we didn't know what was going to happen. And we were really lucky to get an audiobook narrator who narrated part of our books on TikTok live. Like she would live record the narration sessions. Amy Hutch, she's amazing. And we found the strangest audience that I didn't know that we had, which was people who didn't know that they liked sci-fi or had never read a sci-fi book before ever. And so we were kind of like, oh, are we like the not scary sci-fi? Like, is that what we are? So it was funny. We didn't really know who we were marketing to until the books came out, and we kind of saw the people who were reacting to them. And then we were like, oh, okay, we can try and maybe focus in on some of these little areas because we're seeing the reaction to it. It was very interesting the way that happened.
Mm-hmm. Like I've recently had the same question asked to me the other night on a show, and like for instance, the Mighty Call, the last series that I just finished working on, big giant beefy bird barbarian killing his way across the galaxy, like very He-Man Thundercat kind of vibes, but gory. And like I totally thought like this is aimed at like dudes my age that have disposable money that like are nostalgic for this stuff and will really dig this. And I mean, there are some of those guys that are like, oh, this looks like fun, and pick it up. But when I really look at the core of like who buys my stuff, it's mostly either other creators or mostly wannabe creators, like people that want to do their own comics in the future, and and they're interested in what I'm doing, and a lot they're interested in like my TikToks and stuff, of giving them advice and stuff of how to do what I'm doing and how not to make mistakes that I've made or I've seen other people make. And realizing that most of the people that are actually buying my stuff aren't just, like you said, they're not just people that like comic books, or they're not just old guys that have disposable money and are nostalgic for He-Man and Thundercats. Like it's people that want to make comics, and a lot of people way younger than me that want to make comics. So like I've started focusing like my newsletter on being actually really beneficial for people that are interested in making comics, and there's free brushes and videos on like how I made this brush, and walk through on Clip Studio of like how to make your own custom brushes. And like last month's had a free crowd brush where you could just throw a crowd in willy-nilly, and showed you how I made all the different little characters and how you can do your own with your own artwork and customize it. And and if you want to go to my Patreon and sign up, you can, or you can get it for free, or you could go subscribe and get a book sent to your house every month for just $10. And but
that is the most
it's
amazing
a little
thing
bit of
about
pitch,
your
but
Patreon, Fish. I have to say that's the most amazing thing about your Patreon is I've seen a lot of Patreons. I feel like you actually get something from your Patreon.
Oh yeah, I make and send out stacks of books every month on my Patreon. Like you can sign up for $3 and you can watch the art stream, and we can chit chat and stuff. Or for $5 you get a digital comic every month, or for $10 you get a physical comic. And for anybody that shipped out comics, half of that's going to shipping alone. But it's always usually like exclusive Patreon variant covers and stuff. And it sounded crazy when I started it, because everybody's like, there's no way you could do a book a month. And now we're 14 months in, and I've shipped out 15 books.
Wow.
And it's been going okay so far, and it's been growing, and that's good. But like, to answer your question, like when I saw that my audience was mostly people that wanted to learn how to make their own books, I've started focusing harder and harder that direction, because that's what they want to do. So yeah, I want to help them learn how to do that. And maybe it'll encourage other people in too. Maybe it won't. Maybe it's just going to be comic creators that want to buy my stuff. But if they buy it and I can pay the rent, I'm happy.
And to Everborn's point, which was an excellent point, like in my case, someone could be mistaken in thinking that because of the hip hop themes, that this is a quote hip hop comic book, and it's certainly a central part to the story. He gains a lot of his powers because of things that he learns through the culture. But it's also a fish out of water story, which is as basic. Talk about derivative, right? It is as basic stories as that you can get. So sometimes, to Everborn, to your point, sometimes I do get conflicted with that, because certainly I have a digital graffiti site, ZNK238 on Instagram. And they dig all of the hip hop stuff. I mean, they are with it, and it's a great market. But also tapping into other people that are at my regular site who have no idea about my graffiti site, and they're also digging it too. But I appreciate what you're saying, Everborn, because you also don't want to water yourself down, right? You don't want to spread yourself too thin. You should focus on and that's what I'm trying to figure out, really. Where is the most action coming from? And then, of course, playing to it.
It's funny because you're never going to really know where it is. The only way to know is to do it. It's like the Written Writ started off as me. You know what? There's some stuff that I didn't know when I first became a writer that I feel like maybe other people should know. So as I went through all this stuff, because it was a pre-recorded show, and I would do these little skits and do these little things where I go through the stuff that I learned as a writer. And once I got to the end of that, I was sitting there, and I think Lauren's having the same issue. Once you get to the end of that, you go, all right, so now what else do I talk about?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Because now that was your thing, and then you're sitting there going, and I feel like the show has evolved into something else because the show is more like what I am. I'm a geek. I love a lot of things, and even though they keep telling me that I need to focus on what I like and showcase what I need to showcase, I'm like, no. The show, the channel is the way I am. I like all this stuff. I'm not showcasing on one thing just so I can get more views.
Right. Yeah, correct.
Yeah, another just down the marketing sort of rabbit hole. I have a few friends that majored in marketing, so we talk about these things. Another thing that has been said to me is no one, especially like you're starting out, right?
Yes.
No one is going to support. Like, yes, your friends will support you, sure, your family, right? But no one's going to support a vanity project, right? And this is not just for storytelling. This is anything that you are releasing into the world, product, comic, novel, whatever. Your pitch should always be that you've identified a problem and this is solving something in that problem, right? So Lauren, I know this wasn't your intention, but when you found who your audience was, it would be, well, you're not into sci-fi. Here is the story that will get you into sci-fi, right? That's the problem that your story solves. So, and I've seen other people that in the indie space, they do this, and the ones that I've seen like kind of break through or become like really successful. And when I say really successful, I mean, okay, your business, your independent business is doing a couple $100,000 a year, right? Every one of those people that I've met that have been able to break through in that way to make it sustainable, they've always moved towards, here's an issue that I saw, and now I'm telling a story that will address that issue, right? And so I always found that interesting, and I don't know what that is for Everborn. I have these, I'm asking these questions because I haven't really solved them yet for myself.
That's the best way to do it.
Yeah, even to my previous question, who my audience is, I primarily right now talk to people that play video games because that's what this started as, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Now, you would think the Venn diagram of people who play video games and actually read comics was a perfect circle. It is not.
No.
It is not even a figure eight.
Nope.
Right. You have a very small window, and even then, because my whole idea for this thing was, okay, we started as a game, we're going to turn it into comics, and then the comics is going to feed people back to the game, and then the game is going to feed people back to the comics. And we have not been able to get out the second game yet because, one, we've been so preoccupied telling these stories. And so now I'm like, well, if I don't have the games to back these up right now, as was my original vision, then how do I do that? And so now I kind of think of each series in the Everborn saga as a different audience, right? So we are, Lauren, and I like what you said. You have these different stories. You have these different POV characters like Game of Thrones, and they interact with each other. So when I think of Ariel's Adventure, that is for people that are into shonen style manga. It is basically a battle series, right? It is all about the action, but Ariel's Adventure also connects the other series. So right now we have 3 series. There's Ariel's Adventure, there's the Redlands, and there's Prince of Arcadia. Prince of Arcadia is where it starts. It's more of a prequel series. It takes place 20, 30 years before everything else. And it is basically Game of Thrones, right? You got 2 princes. One guy's father was king, the other guy's father is king, and now they're battling it out who's going to run Arcadia. And the outcome of that is kind of what sets up the rest of the conflict in the universe, which is Seraphs versus Stoics. You got to think of the Stoics like the sort of Spanish Inquisition, and think of Seraphs. They're demigods. They are the offspring of the old gods who kind of left the world unannounced many generations ago. And so these demigods have some of their power. So they're basically the people who can do magic. The Stoics are hunting them. The Stoics are in charge of the world at this time, or at least in charge of Arcadia. And that is because of what happens in Prince of Arcadia. And so the Seraphs are now plotting a way to bring back Magnus, who is the Everborn. We named our series after the big bad. It's like if the MCU was called Thanos.
Right. That's cool.
But they've found a way to bring him back. And once he comes back, all hell will break loose and the world will be torn apart. And each of our series follows a different character and tells this story from their vantage point. So we've got the Redlands, which is sort of a heist genre. We've got Ariel's Adventure, which is kind of a battle series. We've got Prince of Arcadia, which is Game of Thrones, and the Remnant, which is what you're looking at right now. That is telling the story from the Seraph's perspective. What is it like for these people to be hunted? Why do they want to turn the world on its head? And that's sort of the story we get to. So why am I telling one story in 4 different genres, following 4 different characters? Because as I said at the outset, I'm a crazy person. So yeah, it's they are 4 series, and you could follow along with your favorite character and follow the story that way. But they all do interconnect, and I like to think of each series as like a POV chapter in Game of Thrones.
Nice.
Without the internal dialogue, as I said. But yeah, so this is our 3rd campaign. The first one was Ariel's Adventure Chapter 1. The second one was the Redlands, and this one is Ariel's Adventure Chapter 2. And it is 72 pages of pure action. And in this chapter, the village. Okay, let me back up a little bit. Ariel's Adventure is the story of this young boy. He's been raised by this guy here, Baltimore, which is actually.
Hold on, I'll put you up.
This guy, right? I'll do one better. Let me. I just got this thing, so this is my unboxing cam.
Ooh, like it.
So yeah, so this guy and this guy are the same person. It's just about 25 years after the events here.
Cool.
So, if you've read Prince of Arcadia, this is our first arc. These two books here. The first arc is the battle at Wildwood Gate, and it kind of explains how the Flatlands are where the humans are, and the Wildwood is where the wolves are. And there was a conflict between the humans and the wolves, and there was a peace treaty, and the wolves have decided to stay in the Wildwood so long as no human enters the forest. And when we pick up that story, these 25, 30 years later, we see that Baldemar is hiding and raising Ariel in the wolf colony that is Ethrin. And they are the only humans that are allowed there. You learn that in chapter 1. And there's a lot of the wolves that don't like the humans being there. And at the end, there is a sort of an invasion, so to speak, or an explosion. Chapter 2 follows up, and now we see that they're being attacked, and all of our main players are separated. So we've got Ariel, we've got his best friend Riley, who is next in line to replace Rhaegal, the chieftain of the wolf colony, and he's kind of a lacks responsibility kind of character, and he's got a younger but much bigger brother in Ragnar, and they're always at odds because Ragnar is not next in line, but he's clearly the one that's suited for the job. And so anyway, they are separated from Baldemar, who has been ambushed, who is separated from Rhaegal, who is trying to keep the village safe, and Ariel and Ragnar and Riley have to put their differences aside to figure out what's going on and stave off the invaders. And we find out why they're invading, but I don't want to give away too many spoilers. But this is chapter 1. Chapter 2, you get to see the invasion. You get to see a lot of fights. And the cool thing about this is that the book is actually already done. So I don't know if I said this before, but the moment this Kickstarter ends, which is October 8th, which is next Tuesday, that is the day that the books come in. And so we'll actually be shipping the books out immediately following the campaign.
Nice. I love when that happens.
Cool.
And because we will be at New York Comic Con this year on the main floor this time, booth 2039, anyone who backs the campaign and will be in the New York area and will be at Comic Con, you can actually pick up your pledge right there at Comic Con.
I was just going to ask you that.
All that.
Excellent, man. Excellent.
That is the way to do it. I like that. You know, if you're at New York Comic Con, come pick up your book. I'm like, whoa.
That's right there. That's smart.
That is smart right there. Yeah.
Well, you know, we're going to see how that works. But I think that next time, I don't even know what the answer is here, but I wonder what would have been the outcome on the campaign had I had it end at Comic-Con, because now you've got a captive audience of people who are into comics, right? I'm going to meet maybe 500 people, right? Mm-hmm. All of those people, they like comics. That's why they're at Comic-Con. Should I have kept it going and had like a QR code? Hey, we got this campaign going on right now. You can back it right here. Would that have been better than allowing people to pick it? I don't know. I'm figuring it.
It's
Can
tough.
you buy the book at Comic-Con?
You will be able to buy it at Comic-Con.
Yeah, so it's better off if you're selling the book at Comic-Con.
Yeah.
Oh, well, yeah, that's true too. That is true too.
Because if you're selling the book at Comic-Con, people want to take something with them. Like if you do a Kickstarter at Comic-Con, I feel like you need to give them something. If they support the con, you know, if they support the book, that way it gives them incentive. Because you know what it is when you're at Comic-Con, you want to take something home with you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. True.
Even if it was an ash can or something
Exactly.
that like gave you the first
Mhm.
6 pages or whatever, like that would be a cool thing to do. I've had lots of them go through when I was at cons, and occasionally I get somebody to go over and check it out. But usually, like Ralph said, they're more interested in what they can get right now, and they're already spending all their money at the con anyway, so they're broke after that for going to invest in something else. And they're like, oh well, I'll look at that later, which doesn't help if my book's fixing to end pretty soon.
Yeah.
If you're
Right.
halfway through, maybe you'll get a chance. I I occasionally get somebody to sign up for the Patreon, but
Yeah. And this is probably a wasted page, but we do this in every book. We have our Everborn seal. So it's always our first page.
Yeah. Great artwork, man.
Yeah.
mhm.
Amazing.
Don't thank me. Thank Francis and Mike and Albert on the colors.
Sure thing.
If you like the story, I'm your guy to talk to. But
There you go.
The characters all have great design too.
Yeah.
that is something we spend a lot of time on, like months before any book comes out. We're just designing each character meticulously. By the way, do any of you guys do Enneagrams for your characters?
Not me.
Yeah, I've been getting into it. Like, I didn't start out that way, but like the more I learn about them, where it's like it's a different sort of character type. It kind of takes into account some of Freud's human studies or whatever.
Right.
But once you know what is this person's character trait, and why they got there and what they want, now you know what other character types are good to play them off of, and it just helps drive more engaging character pieces. Because right, like your plot could be one thing, but like the interpersonal relationships between the characters within that plot are where it gets real interesting. So anyway, this is like, if you think the quality here is good, wait until you see Ariel's Adventure Chapter 2, because like I feel like we kind of plussed everything. Like, this is sort of level 2. Now I want to show you guys something, and no one has actually seen this.
Ooh, always like when you get
I sent you something in the private chat. We are actually relaunching the Everborn site as soon as the campaign is over, because once the campaign is over, you'll be able to buy chapter 2. So if you can put that on your screen, yeah, just X that out, that subscribe thing.
You mean you don't want us to subscribe to the mailing list?
Well, I do, but
oh, look at that book.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The novel's coming. I'm gonna give I'm probably gonna need some consulting from Lauren on that one. Yeah, but if you this kind of shows off all our main series.
Nice. Yeah.
These are the hero banners, and then if you scroll down,
Whoa.
I love the way the screen moves in the background, man. That's great.
yeah, we've been working on this for a while.
Yes, man.
And if you go down a little bit more, you can start to see which comics we have, right? And if you hover over them, we show you a little bit of action from them.
Oh, cool.
You really thought this out. I love that. Look at that. Even the thing gets a thing.
Yeah.
Even the
then
thing gets a thing. That's the quote of the night, folks.
And then if you scroll down some more, so we're doing we've got some like apparel stuff, but this stuff is we design it, but the person who makes the shirt are like either Adidas or Hanes, Fruit of the Loom. So we went with name brand clothing manufacturers to make the clothes, and then we kind of tried to do hopefully what people think is fashion forward design.
Cool.
And then we've got the art prints. These are really good because they're like 2 by 3 feet, so they're pretty big. It's like what you see behind me. Well, you can't see it because I'm on a different camera, but you know what I'm saying. But yeah, so this is not what the site looks like now. It will look like this on the 8th when the campaign is over. And then there's one more thing I want to talk about because I feel like I've been bumping my gums too long. If you go back to the Kickstarter, since
keep talking, go ahead.
Yeah, we actually hit our goal this morning.
Nice.
And so I finally got to announce what the stretch goal is. So we are like $3,600 away from the stretch goal, but the next series that we are going to release is The Remnant, and that's coming out in 2025. I think if you scroll up, you'll see it. Slightly scroll up, or if you just click on stretch goal on the left.
There it goes.
Yeah. So our next book is coming out at the end of 2020. Not next book. We have books before that, but our next series is launching at around this time, 2025. And it'll be like a hardcover book, like you see the Prince of Arcadia. It'll include 2 chapters, but part 1 is already done. So if we hit this stretch goal, we're going to do a limited print run. Of part 1, cool. And everyone that backed the campaign will get that book, no extra charge.
Wow!
Damn, that's
awesome. So if you back the digital tier, you'll get the digital copy. Any physical copy will get a free book, and this is only going to be available for people in the Kickstarter because when this launches, it will be at the end of 2025 with the second part to it because we're going to do a bundle book. It'll be like 120 pages. But you'll basically get the first half of it right now. So we got 5 days to make it there. Everybody's support has been tremendous so far. So I thank everybody that supported it. But if you can, check it out. And the last thing is we have 2 variant covers for Ariel's Adventure Chapter 2. And we've only printed 50 of those each, so they'll be gone by the time I get to Comic-Con, but they won't be printed again, and so you can add those variant covers onto your pledge. You can see when I say we leveled up the artwork.
Man,
wow.
Yeah.
Now here's a funny thing. You see this page that you're looking at now? Well, the one right below it. Okay. So we have a tier called the Everborn tier or the Immortal tier, where we will make you a character in a future book. So this guy here, I don't want to say his name, but he backed the first campaign for Ariel's Adventure, and so now he ended up as a character in book 2. And it's not just like a walk-on character; he's one of the invaders. Wow. So we knew we had a slot for a character, and so since it wasn't designed yet, we said, okay, give us the likeness you want in here, and we'll design one of the intruders.
Nice.
By you. So like we really tried to do him justice. So if you back that tier, those slots are limited. So the Immortal tier only has 1 left. That one you'll get your own cover, and it's like a 1 of 1. But the Everborn tier, I think there are like 4 slots left on that. We have to limit them because I can't like make everybody a character. But that one, we've got 4 slots left, and you'll get the same treatment. You'll get your own character. You don't get to control the story, but you do get input on what the design looks like.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I've done a lot of those tiers as an artist, and they have been really fun and interesting. even the time I did one myself that was supposed to just be like a one-shot cameo. Like I was going to pick one of my supporters at random to put them in the cafeteria scene in T-Man and Hyperstrike. And this lady won, and she wanted to put her daughter in. I was like, great, that'll fit into the middle school great. Except her daughter's in a wheelchair and has a service Great Dane. And now all of a sudden I got to stick a Great Dane in the middle of the cafeteria. And she ended up in like 5 pages of the book because like it just didn't make sense to just like, there's a Great Dane in the cafeteria for no reason, and I couldn't let that go. So I had to keep sticking her in the background with her dog until they got in near the camera and you could see Service Dog on, the outfit. I always end up doing that. People end up way more in the book than I thought I was going to do because of continuity or whatever.
You're a great guy. That's why.
I'm going to do the same thing on my campaign. I'm going to do the same thing on my campaign. There's a lot of space, so I'm actually going to offer a graffiti tag on one of the subways, like after 4 spots and walls and everything. Yeah, and that's going to be interesting. I already have someone who says he definitely wants to do it. So it's on the higher tier. So it's a good way to get them involved, and certainly as a graffiti artist, I'm looking forward to including my art.
I should have done that in Green Zone. Stupid.
There you go.
There's so
now
many
you can,
balls.
Mr. Fish.
Do it on the next one.
There you
So
go.
you see here, like these are the lights killing me, but these are all the people in the first campaign that backed it. So we gave them their own credits page, but then later when we were doing the book, we were like, all right, we got new characters we're introducing. We'll make them designed after these guys.
That's nice. I like that.
Do you ever get any feedback from people who are like, okay, that doesn't resemble me? Or like, I'm curious because I haven't done it yet. So I'm wondering how much it's going to be.
Well,
this isn't as good as I thought it would be,
Luckily, what we'll do is we'll have I'll say, send me a picture. They send me a picture. Then we'll design a character and say, this is what we're thinking. Do you like this?
Gotcha. Okay.
Now there was one guy. This is the guy who backed the biggest one last time, where this took a lot of back and forth.
Okay.
And we even came up with the name together. He wanted his character's name to be Ahura Khan. And then because we did so many designs, we gave him his own page here.
Cool.
Nice.
But this was a lot of back and forth. So to answer your question, yeah, because he had very specific ideas. And I remember the funny thing is he, like, our magic, we were using a hard magic system, right? Like you don't just have magic because it like serves the story. It's like you have to be of the bloodline of a specific god. So if you were of the bloodline of the god of fire, you're going to have fire powers. If you are of the bloodline of the god of fertility, that's what your power is going to be. And then the only way you can channel that power is if you have an artifact of theirs that they left behind, right? So the gods left behind treasures, whether it is a jewel or a piece of clothing or an armor, you have to have some artifact of theirs, and then that will channel through your blood.
Okay.
You actually thought it out, because I know what people think. People think, oh, it's magic. They just put it in there,
right?
And I know Lauren's the same thing with you. It's not that simple. It's not just something you throw in.
so much like that we have written that is not in the book, like several other books of things of how everything works. It's crazy.
One thing I do want to say on putting people in the book, though, like if somebody buys it for themselves, they'll almost always be happy with it.
Okay.
I have noticed when somebody buys it, whether it's a caricature or it's sticking them in the book or whatever, for somebody else, no offense to anybody, but particularly if they buy it for their wife, she will never be happy with it. If a lady buys it for herself, she'll love it. She'll be happy. But they never like it when you buy it for them and then try and stick them in something.
Wow.
And they'll never find a picture that they like. And then if you draw it to look like the picture, It doesn't work. It doesn't work. If they get it for themselves, aces. It doesn't work as a gift.
Well, I plan on drawing Ralph for my comic book, so hopefully he likes it. But he might.
I'm twisted. I'm evil right now.
I don't know. Ralph's pretty picky.
Yeah.
Ralph is an animated human, so I don't think it matters.
Ralph is a
He's
human?
almost
I
a
thought Ralph was
cartoon as
turtle.
is. Like,
I was going to say, I'm already a cartoon character.
yeah.
It's like when I do my TikToks, it's this whole other thing that happens, and people go, "Oh, Ralph, you need to." What I'm like, look, man, I was going to tell you that, Lauren. When people are always telling me, "This is the way you need to do your TikToks. This is what you need to do," and I'm like, I'm not doing them for anybody else except for myself.
Yeah.
Well, anytime I do any videos or anything, I realize that if I do it for anybody else, I am not going to do it. But if I do it to see what I'm going to do, then I'll do it.
Yeah.
Oh, I feel
Because I
that.
surprise myself in those videos.
So,
I will advise you all to watch the Macho Man episode.
Yes, if you want to see me go completely left field, watch my written Writ Macho Man episode. And that's when I decided I needed to pull back. Oh, yeah.
Let me tell you something, brother.
Exactly.
Yeah.
how do you
I
guys,
never thought I'd get so much use out of that voice as I do now.
You
how
gonna
do
say
you guys approach
Mhm.
like the socials? I've found that I can only do one at a time.
Mhm.
There was a time where I was on Instagram a lot, but because my profile there is really only geared towards this thing that I'm creating, like I would either be giving away every panel to have a post every day, or I could only post so infrequently that I wasn't really able to build a connection with an audience, right? And so I transitioned over to the hellscape that used to be known as Twitter, that is now X. But the reason I did that was I found that because it is really primarily text-based and versus just images, which is Instagram, that people that follow me there follow me because they're interested in what I have to say, right? The connection that I have with, and I got like maybe 4,000 followers on Instagram, and then maybe 5,000 on Twitter or X. And I feel like the Twitter followers are way more engaged. And that is just because I post there if I have, just not because I'm trying to sell them something. It is me posting about life, about, usually I'm probably talking to people in the video game thing, so it'll be video game industry stuff. And so people know Everborn because they're interested in his ideas and what he has to say, versus on Instagram, people know Everborn because I share artwork from the books we're making, but I just don't feel like that connection is there. So how do you guys approach social, and are you able to use more than one at a time? Because I find there's just not enough hours in the day as it is, and I don't have the bandwidth
you ain't
to
lying.
contribute to even the one that I'm contributing to. So
Try and get the most bang for your buck. Like, what I've started doing here recently is, like, when I'm filming a video or something that I know I'm going to use for a TikTok, I film it horizontally, but I keep myself as honed into that center section as I can, so I can use it as a wide format one for my Patreon and for my YouTube, and then I can edit it down for the vertical formats for Instagram and Facebook and TikTok. And like, I hired some people to come on to post for me, so like I make the videos and then put them in a file, and they can post them to social media for me at different times, because I know with my ADD, I will get lost down the rabbit hole. And while I'm waiting for it to load on TikTok, I'll get lost down, this trail on TikTok and look up, and I lost an hour of time where I could have been knocking out another page.
Oh, yeah.
So it's way more valuable to me to let them do that for me. And I just make the videos when I'm having a good day and I'm not too ticky, and put them there. And B, get as much use out of stuff as you can. Like you were talking about the Instagram, like one panel, man, you can post the pencils, you can post the inks, you can post the colors,
Yeah.
you can post the time-lapse video of that one panel, you can post the time-lapse with music, you can post the time-lapse with a voiceover of what you like, why you designed this character this way. Do one with a voiceover what his arc is, do one with a voiceover of like writing tips, do one with a voiceover of marketing tips. Like you can reuse that stuff over and over again, and that helps make that like one panel out of that page get you 4, 6, 10, 20 posts out of it over time. Like you don't have to post them one after another, but you can use it over and over again. Like I'm even going back now and taking a lot of my old tip videos from TikTok and putting new time-lapse video of new art over them, or packing videos of me packing orders from TikTok. And I can reuse that bit about me talking about needing a good editor and what I look for in an editor. I can reuse that on 6 different videos with different time-lapse or whatever over it, and reuse the same bit over and over again.
That is excellent advice.
Yeah.
I'm gonna look into that. This another thing is I'm on a mission for within the next 3 years to be doing this like full time. A big part of that is just like outside business moves that my wife and I are making to be able to make that happen. But I'm really trying to find the weak spots, not weak spots, but like trying to find the spaces where I can be better at marketing, advertising, and things like that. So what you said there is super interesting. And for this campaign is, I don't want to call it a relaunch, but it is a reintroduction of the whole Everborn universe to the world. So it starts with this campaign. We roll that into the relaunch of the website. We roll that into Comic-Con, and then we roll that into what we have planned for 2025, and trying to see if we can drum up even more excitement.
I was just going to add that, Everborn, you have so much content, beautiful, from not only your stories to, like, as Mr. Fish was saying, you can do your inks, and you really have a lot of content. I know with me, what helps me certainly scheduling posts. I think if you start at the beginning of the week, it's Monday, like, okay, I got to post. What am I going to post this week? A lot of times, if you try to do it all at one time, I think it's like a traffic jam. So if you can try to do a little bit here and there and actually schedule it, I think that's the best part. You schedule it for whenever, you think of the idea, you create the post, and then you schedule it for Tuesday, and then schedule another one for Thursday. Before you know, your whole week is done as you're going within the week. So scheduling is certainly something that helps me.
Knowing that schedule helps you plan out for the future too. Like we planned out with my Patreon, there's something new happening each week. Like the newsletter comes out with the new brushes and stuff, and they're available for free on the Patreon the first week. And then the next week, the video of how I made that comes out. And then there's an art stream. And then there's me and my buddy talking about making comics. And like knowing that I need to have a new asset for the newsletter, and knowing I need a new video for that, like when I'm working on somebody's page, like I've been working on this book for Greg Moquin for Sierra Nova Comics, and there's all kinds of new stuff I haven't had to do before, like draw stadiums full of MMA fighting fans and construction sites full of girders and stuff. So like when I had to make girder assets so that I could build these buildings real quick, I just stopped and filmed myself doing that while I did it. and so I know next month's assets are ready to go. And then when I had to make custom wheel ellipses so I can make the wheels faster on the cement truck that I was drawing over and over again, I filmed myself doing that. So the month after that, I have assets ready to go for the newsletter and videos ready. So having it scheduled helps me know what I can stock up on when I have good time for doing that. And I'm like 5 months ahead on that stuff now.
Damn.
Nice.
Wow, excellent.
That's the way to plan it. All right, folks. I see we are at the 1:30 mark here. So let's start telling people who we are again one more time and where they can find you, because people have short attention span.
Really?
So Lauren, tell them where they can find you and all the good stuff. Go for it.
You can find me by my name most places. I am on the socials. I'm on TikTok as Lauren Writes Stuff. I have a website, which is just my name, laurencipollo.com. Very easy to find. You can find us on Amazon. If you like character-driven sci-fi, mystery, space opera, you should definitely give it a try. The ebook of the first book, Origin, is 99 cents. You should just give it a try. But yeah, I'm on Instagram. I'm on X, Twitter, whatever it is now. And I try to post. I did not answer the social media question because I'm terrible at it. So I try. I'm around.
That's a lie. Lauren does some great videos. You should check out her TikTok. It's very entertaining. She does a lot of writers' questions and a lot of writers' thing. I feel like you're in the right path. I think what happens is that, like the same thing with me. There comes a time where you sit there going, okay, I've already talked about all the stuff that I wanted to talk about.
Yeah.
So what the hell do I talk about now?
You talk about it again, because a lot of people haven't seen the first one.
It's true.
Yeah.
I'm really trying to get into TikTok. I haven't cracked that yet.
It's all the beast. Lauren, I think one of the other things you can do, you have this connection with D&D or role playing. And I find that when it comes to that and writing, people don't seem to like go in that direction. And it's funny because recently, like when I first started talking about writing, I found out that explaining writing through the process of creating of role playing, it made it so much simpler, because when you start off writing, you start off like a guy who starts to play their character. You create the character's history, and it's all about that character you created, and you're playing in somebody else's sandbox. And then as a DM, you start playing in the sandbox, but it's to a bigger level. Because you're still using all the books and you're still using all that information. And as a writer, sometimes playing in somebody else's sandbox is the best place to go. I know a lot of people knock fan fiction, but it's an amazing thing. It's an amazing tool.
Yeah, it's a great way to get started.
Exactly. And then when you become the big DM and you're creating your own worlds, it's that whole graduation of writing. You started off as a player, and now you're the big guy, because you understand how worlds are made and how you follow their rules when you do in the sandbox. So now you're sitting there being like both of you guys going, this is how the magic works in my universe. This is how the universe works. This is how the God pantheon works. Because all this stuff is important. And I know a lot of people out there going, what are you talking about? Because most people don't think about any of this stuff. And it's funny that I said that when you're planning stuff as a DM, there's tons of stuff you don't use. It's the same thing with writing.
Yeah. When
you're writing, there's so much stuff that stays in the background that nobody ever sees.
Yeah.
And I gotta give credit to J.K. Rowling, because I love when she comes out of nowhere and goes, well, this is what I was thinking. And then she shares those bits and pieces of that writer's world where she wrote the characters in. And then, and people go, oh, that's a lie. I'm like, no, it's not a lie, because you have all this information that's there that nobody's ever going to know about. Nobody's ever going to see. You probably never even going to talk about it. Until somebody asks a weird
Never
question.
thought anybody would ask about that one thing. But there actually is a reason that the button wasn't buttoned on his left pocket on his shirt.
I know it. I know why.
That's another thing you can talk about, Lauren. You can talk about, in your books, there's stuff you can give away that doesn't give away the book. The writing process.
Oh, man, you can make so much out of the stuff that you didn't get included. Like, that would be such a cool series of, like, these cool things that had to get cut out. And, if you want to know the really cool stuff that got left in, go buy the book.
Right. All right.
might be a way
I
for you to
love
go.
that
Yeah.
idea. I'm going to use that idea myself.
And
I'm
then,
gonna do that too.
and
I've
then,
actually used that a couple of times where,
Yeah.
where I'll do like because one of the things I love to do is have the audience give me stuff, and then because I love writing, so I'll have the audience give me stuff, and we'll do a challenge, and they'll throw a bunch of stuff at me, and then I'll create something from that, and then I'll go back to it going, well, see, this is when I was thinking in this direction, but I didn't go in that direction. I did this, and it's also a great explanation. It shows the process of writing. People think it's a linear thing, and
Right.
we all know it's not linear.
Not even a little bit.
and then when you pass away, your kids are gonna release all that unused stuff and call it Cimmerillion.
Yeah.
Dude, I have to say, I've spent my whole life writing, and I don't like publishing. I don't like going in that direction. It's I find that publishing, and we all know this is a whole other job. So it takes away from writing, and people don't understand that. So I sit here and I go, I'm not publishing shit. So I feel like my family's gonna go and find all these notebooks and stuff and go, what the hell's all this stuff? Oh my God. Eddie, go ahead. Tell the people where they can find you.
Sure. I'll share my screen again if you don't mind.
Sure.
Yeah. So again, my pre-launch page is up. So if you can get to it, I would appreciate that. And please sign up for it. The Kickstarter will drop on October 24th. And then on my homepage here, can you see my homepage on the screen? I'm not sure. Can you see the homepage?
No, I think you transferred over. You might have.
Gotcha. There you go. Okay, perfect. I forgot to mention that I also have a free comics sign up here. So if you just give me your email address, you'll get the first 5 pages of the comic, so you can kind of get a little bit more detail about the story.
It's a good way to get people to sign up.
Exactly. So Ralph, thanks again for having me on. As you know, I always appreciate you,
man.
No,
that was a lot of geeking out, a lot of process talk here.
But yeah, what I appreciate about you, which I think a lot of people do, and maybe it's unsaid, is really your spirit, Ralph. Every time I see you, you're always smiling, always with a positive attitude. And again, you're very indicative of what this culture is, positivity, someone who's willing to help you, and more importantly, very insightful too. So thanks for having me on, Ralph. Really, it was my honor. It really was.
Shucks.
Everborn, go for it.
Well, first I'd like to make a confession.
Uh-oh.
I have actually never played D&D. I've tried to set up several
That's
games.
it. I'm out of here. I can't.
So I was gonna ask if there are any opportunities for anyone that wants to be a Sherpa for me to learn how to play D&D. I would be very interested. Always wanted to play, never could get into a game.
Good to know.
But in terms of where you can find me, go to Kickstarter, type in Everborn, or barring that, you can go to Everborn Saga anywhere that's on. If you play video games, that's on Xbox, PlayStation, Steam. If you go to everbornsaga.com, you will find me. You can look on X, on Facebook, on TikTok, on Instagram. You name it, Everborn Saga. And if you look in the mirror and say Everborn Saga 3 times, I will show up. But
I gotta say,
I'm totally stealing that too.
Find. Yeah, you're so easy to find that I can believe that.
But yeah, we are very close, and I really would like to hit that stretch goal because I really want you guys to see what we have planned for the Remnant. By the way, Lauren, the Remnant, it is a comic, but that comic is an adaptation of the novel that we never released because I haven't been able to find an editor. Like, it's 40,000 words.
Whoa,
wow. It is it gets into the nitty-gritty of explaining what the universe is, and if you read that, you'll understand what the conflict is to come. But the part 1 and part 2, which is what we're going to release next year, is just basically adapting the first 3 chapters of the novel. One day that novel will come out. I just need an editor who knows what they're doing.
A good editor is worth the money.
if anybody's interested, just put it out there. We're looking for an editor. We are going to release that, and we're going to give it away to everybody. So, and there's also just again, I'm just going to show this again. Look at this shirt, man.
I gotta say, the shirts look good. The gear looks good. I'm a big T-shirt guy, so yeah, this stuff looks really nice.
Will that be at the Comic-Con too, Everborn?
Oh, yeah.
Some of them will. These are hard. Like these are kind of like made to order, and we have like we're gonna pick one design that we're gonna bring to the show. But they'll all obviously be available on the website. So we actually might bring two designs to the show, but we have for the relaunch, we basically redid our entire apparel line and got rid of a lot of the stuff that were less interesting. But again, check out this campaign. It is just check out Everborn in general, man. It's one story, it's two timelines, it is 4 interconnected series telling the story from a different character's vantage point. Whether you're into a fantasy heist genre, which I don't know that I've seen, right? Like this is actually not easy to write because like the premise of any, like if you're telling a heist story, usually it revolves around people on walkie-talkies. It's a simple thing, but you can't do that in a fantasy setting.
Can't just, come in. Yeah, that's
right. So like, how do you design a heist in a medieval setting?
Right.
You ponder the orb.
He's right, yeah.
But this is cool too. Just the Redlands. This was our last story. So this is Isis Amun. That's what she goes by during the day when she is a princess. But at night she leads this group of bandits, and they do not know she's a princess, and the king does not know that she is a bandit by night. And with her group of bandits who hate the royals, they try to sabotage the royals because she's trying to get back at this guy who has raised her but is not really her father. He actually took the throne from her real parents but raised her, and now she's trying to get revenge covertly, but she can't tell her friends that she's a royal, and she can't tell the royal that she's a bandit. And you can just imagine that stuff will
sounds like high school
at some point.
That's pretty good, man. I'm digging that. That's got some meat on the bone right there.
Right. And they obviously at some point she's going to interact with Ariel here. I can't tell which, but she's going to interact with Ariel at some point. So we've got the conflict here of you got these two brothers who want control of the forest, and these two humans who are not wanted there, but they're hiding out for something. And you got this guy coming back, Magnus, the Everborn, who wants Ariel for some reason, which you got to read on to find out. And then you got Prince of Arcadia, which tells the story of these two princes and who's going to run things. And the outcome of this is what sets off the rest of the series. So again, they all connect, but you can follow one depending on the genre that you're into. And we put a lot of work into this, and the video game is coming. And
I hope so.
Yes. Well, what the first thing we're going to do is I found a way to port the old Windows Phone game that we did to iOS and Android. So that will come out in 2025. We're not making any changes. It's going to be the code as it was. So, but the point is, since people can't get that game and we want to preserve that we made it, we're going to put that out, and then from there work on the next thing. By the way, I do all the coding there too, because when I'm not writing, I am coding. When I'm not doing any of that, I am arguing with strangers on Elon Musk's internet.
I stay away from that place.
You should, man. I don't know if it's gotten me as much as I've given it in terms of time, but what are you gonna do?
Mr. Fish, go.
I am Mr. Fish from Mr. Fish Comics, fastest working man in indie comics. I have worked on 99 books now I just crossed 6 years working in indie comics. And this is my new book, Fish Tales, Volume 2, anthology series that I put out. It's got stories from across the multiverse of Mr. Fish Comics. It has a little bit of Alice Lost in Wonderland in it there with Alice and Rabbit. It's got, I can't show you that page because that gives away too much. It has a story from the world of the Mighty Ka with the warrior Kess going through the crucible in this temple that's made in the carcass of a character that only a few will recognize from my other books. It shows all the different races and stuff from the world that she comes from. She's fighting for her life among the other young warriors from the clan to see who's going to make it and actually become a warrior. And it has a story here. Oh, wait a minute. There's a great page in here I want to show off. Illustrated by my son Barely of this team filling in for the big superhero. I love the protomorph dude filling in for Captain Atomic there. And he thinks he's all that. He doesn't need to read the instructions. Why bother listening to anything? And a lightning bolt zips past his head and he's like, whoa, wait a minute. Electricity kills my kind. I'm not a biped like y'all. And the boss is like, yeah, electricity kills us too. But, he didn't bother to read the dossier going in because, why bother reading the instructions? And it's so much fun, such cool stuff. Ready to go to print. All I'm waiting for is for Kickstarter to release the funds and the order gets printed and shipped out. I'm doing a big print run of it and issue 1 of Fish Tales. So I have lots of them on hand for cons and TikTok shops and whatnot. And I'm Mr. Fish Comics on all social media, TikTok, Facebook, everywhere, YouTube. Mr. Fish Comics on the Patreon, where you can subscribe and get a new book every month for $5 or $10, depending if you want digital or physical. And busy. Mr. Fish Comics, MrFishComics.com. It's all the same name, easy to find. And GoMrFish.com will take you right to what I'm doing now, which is the Kickstarter or the next Kickstarter or the one after that or the one after that.
That's Mr. Fish, all right. Do you want to share that video you made?
Absolutely, man. Well, I don't have access to it on this computer.
Oh, I was going to say, because I can share it on the Facebook, but it just looks kind of... Let's see.
Yeah, share it on Facebook, man. That's fine.
Facebook. Let's see.
I'm also the letterer on Hellion and Bash that's live on Kickstarter right now. It hit goal in like the first hour it was live. And it's a really cool story. My buddy TS, who wrote a story in Fish Tales, wrote and had illustrated. I'm just a little jealous I didn't get to illustrate it. And it's an awesome story where this sidekick of the biggest superhero in town ends up teamed up with this cat burglar, and they end up on the run from superheroes and villains alike. It's such a cool story.
Let's see, did I get the right one? That's your friends, because you made 2. Here we go.
Oh, they're both good though. You can show it if you want.
Oh, I'll share both of them. Don't worry.
I sat down the other day after doing a video for my own book, and my buddy just got his book funded. I was like, I'll spend an hour and make a little video for him real quick. And then I looked up and it was 1 a.m, and I had spent the entire day doing this video for him and kind of got lost in it. This is a little short about the B Team, the story that my son illustrated.
Cool.
Here we go.
I love how much he looks like my son.
Just amazing, man.
Yeah.
And again, that's just the raw video, like I was saying before, so I can put music over it, I can put voiceover over it, whatever I want.
Here's the second one. Hold on. There you go, folks.
That's
And
cool.
Is there a
Diamond
tool you
Fish.
used
Oh.
for that specifically, or did you like, how'd you make that?
I took, because I lettered the book, I had the unlettered pages saved, so I took them, and a lot of it's just panning and zooming and putting in sound effects, and then some of it is cutting up the images and moving them around, you know.
Okay, so you had to do that manually.
Yeah, like the scene from the elevator, I cut out 2 different images of him. I cut the head apart from the body, redrew stuff in so I could move them separately. And then I had to rebuild the whole background because there wasn't enough left of the elevator and stuff to fill in the whole scene. But I cut the other characters that went by in other scenes out because it was a bunch of horizontal panels and didn't fit in a vertical format. So I had to cut pieces out and redraw it. But I'm an artist, so it's, you know,
How was it working with your son, Mr. Fish?
Oh man, that's been doubly cool because
Right.
not only did he do that story for Fish Tales, but in the full version of Alice Lost in Wonderland, he ended up coloring like half of the pages in this book.
Wow.
And you really can't tell where I colored pages and where he colored pages because it kind of slips in and out because I just kind of started the story in Fish Tales and then suddenly I had to make like a whole book out of it and it wasn't entries in an anthology anymore. So it goes back and forth between the pages I did and he did. And this is a story that I've worked on for 30 years. Like I tried self-publishing it 30 years ago, and I'm really glad that's not out there with my name on it now because it was rough. But he's heard this story his whole life growing up. So getting to work on this with me was really epic and really it was a really big deal for him. It was really awesome for me getting to see him get to this point where he's doing professional quality work now. I literally am just now handing him a job that I was going to do. And I'm a little bit behind schedule just from traveling and cons and stuff. And I was like, he could do this job as easily as I can. And so I've handed him a job that I was going to do.
Wow.
And you can literally say like father, like son,
Yeah, I mean, and especially in a coloring gig, like I already have proof right here that he does as good a job as I do. Awesome. Like I sent the client some of these pages and he was like, oh, okay, yeah, sure, he can do it. And
so he knows where you got that talent from, though, right? You gotta make sure that you keep him humble with that.
Lots of hard work in there on his part.
I can see it.
The biggest gift he had was the ability to listen when he was young and take criticism without getting his butt hurt about it.
Yeah, that's a good trait.
And that was a big deal. Like about 7 or 8, he got to where he really wanted constructive criticism and his work skyrocketed. I'm a little jealous. He's got way better than me way faster at that age.
Awesome.
I know 40-year-olds that can't take constructive criticism, so that is
man.
amazing on his part.
I always think it's funny because as writers, you know, that's all we get is rejection letters and constructive criticism.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I always tell people this, like, do not be afraid to tell me if anything that I show you sucks. Because I don't take that stuff personally. I'm like, okay, cool. How does it suck? And then can then make that decision as yes, I meant it and it's staying that way, or I didn't see it that way. But because you know, when you try to get feedback and you show it to friends and family, a lot of the time they're so excited that you're doing something, they're afraid to tell you.
Find an editor that will hurt your feelings. Find somebody that will tell you it sucks. Yeah.
Because I need that. Look, I thrive on negative feedback. Maybe I need to see a therapist, but this is how I get better. Can I share something with you guys? And this is it's a video. Can I share my screen?
Yeah, sure.
1 minute. I know we all got to get out of here, but
yeah, we're at 2 hours, which is an amazing thing because you know we're geeking out.
What's sleep? Who needs that?
All right.
I always tell people though, if they need to go, just let me know and I'll let you guys go.
Yeah, no, this is the last thing. It's only because I saw that video. I used a tool to do this. I'll share it with you guys if you're interested. Okay.
There we go. Ooh.
Man.
Oh, that looks cool.
That looks really cool. Wow. It's a good way to show off the book.
Excellent. Yeah.
And it's funny because, you know, somebody's like listening to us and goes, what happened?
But that's the cool thing though too, like kind of going out of order lets you show all kinds of cool stuff without giving story away and stuff. And you can do such cool stuff with just like preset filters and transitions and stuff. You can get really neat looking stuff without having to go crazy on it. And
yeah, this is you guys can check this out. It's a free tool. It's called Video Bolt. I just uploaded different panels. So like they'll have a template and it'll say insert an image here, insert text here.
Cool.
And I just picked a bunch of panels and then it gave me that. So I didn't edit that to do all that. I just said these transitions look good. Here are my pictures. And then you can pick some, you know, audio that you want to throw on top of it in the end. But it came out really well and it was totally free and it maybe took, I don't know, a half hour and that was just me picking the right pictures and cropping.
That's a little bit of time because I know I've spent enough hours working on stupid little videos.
Oh yeah, I spent 11 hours on that one for my buddy.
Yeah.
Unintentionally.
But yeah,
I was only going to spend one.
For the people making that stuff, if you're interested, and that's just one template. They have literally hundreds.
Cool.
But it's called Video Bolt.
I will definitely be checking that out.
One last thing about constructive criticism, just real quick.
Is
it constructive criticism when Ralph calls me after seeing Wild Robot and says, you know, Ender Zed is no Wild Robot? Like, is that constructive criticism? I just want to know. Is it or... Joke.
That's a motivational speech.
That is, he understood.
That's it, Mr. Fish. Exactly.
All right, folks. We're going to help Madame Sorcière out here because she is close to her goal of funding. She's at 3,000. She has 25 hours to go. 95. Wow, she has 95 already. That's pretty good. Dude, she's right there. Come on, folks. We can help her out. And I'm going to let her explain it herself because she does a better job than I do.
Hi there. I'm M. Sorcier, self-taught artist and writer and creator of The Misadventures of Buddy and Friend. The Misadventures of Buddy and Friend is the tale of 3 inept heroes who set out on an epic quest to stop a looming demon invasion. Buddy is the careless leader whose half-assed problem-solving methods end up getting the team into trouble. Leo is a barbarian with a heart of gold whose good intentions also end up getting the team into trouble. And Lokthar is a morally bankrupt wizard, I guess, whose terrible hijinks also get the team into trouble. Together, our heroes, well, not really heroes. Together, our brave adventurers, not really brave either. Together, are competent, no, are capable? Together, these guys embark on a quest to find an item that can sever a rift to the abyss and stop the demons from coming and making everything worse, if that's even possible. Will they be able to succeed and save the world? Probably not, but you'll have to keep reading the book to find out. Speaking of books, The Misadventures of Buddy and Friend 3 is a 28-page standard-size comic in full color. If you're new to the series, Buddy and Friend 1 and 2 are also available so you can catch up on all the chaos. Aside from the standard cover, I have a cool splatter variant, a shiny chrome holofoil variant, custom sketch covers, an adorable sticker set, and oh yeah, you can also catch up on all 7 issues of my other series, Sacrimony. And for all you digital backers out there, yep, I've got you covered too. Wowee! So if you're looking for a ridiculously funny fantasy tale that reads like a D&D campaign where everyone rolls a 1, you should check out The Misadventures of Buddy and Friend. Thank you so much for your support, and keep an eye out because there'll be many, many more books to come.
There you go. Matt Associate is fantastic. She does all the work herself. She is the artist, the letterer, the writer, just like Mr. Fish over here. and what I love when she says it is that she does all this stuff. She can't even afford to pay herself.
You guys are way better at pitching your Kickstarters than me, man. I gotta work on my approach.
And folks, I know that you guys have been wondering when I finally published something. Well, since it was taken out of my hand and somebody else has taken my story and decided to put it in their book, because we suck at comics, there you go. You can go read my story in the second volume of We Suck at Comics. And of course, there is a beautiful art piece by our friend Shadow Rabbit. So there's even a better reason to go check it out, because Shadow doesn't do the paper art. He usually does the figure art. So yeah, go check it out. Like I like to say, the best time to help somebody out, people always saying, how can I help you out for free? It's not what they say, but that's how I'm translating. This is the best time to help somebody out for free. When you notify, when you go on, you get the notify, you do your thing. It helps people out, folks. The better place they are, the more followers they have, the better they are in the algorithm. Mm-hmm. So go. This is free. Sign up to get notified. Come on, folks. Mm-hmm. We suck at comics, so you can get good stuff. Come on. There you have it, folks. And I've made it easier for you because I know somebody's going to be in the audience going, well, Ralph, I don't want to go looking for the links. So I put all the links, so all the beautiful people here on our audience, our people here talking, so you, the audience, can go check it out. So there, you have no excuse. You don't have to say, Ralph, no. It's right there. It's in the comment section. Go press it. Go get these people's stuff. Mr. Nat, am I forgetting anything?
Kat Calamia has a book out, as well as Pat Shand, but unlike most nights where I just mentioned that they have a book, they are doing a collaboration coming up for next month or later this month. I don't know the exact date, where both of their current campaigns will have an exclusive in-con crossover where both books create a larger image. So this is a collaboration. They just announced this actually earlier today. So
wow.
Yeah, check that out.
And we all know Kat and Pat are always doing something, so go check them out. Anything else, guys, before we go? Besides the fact that we should have been gone hours ago.
I've said all the words I know.
I was wondering if you had a couple of books handy there so we could show them off.
Oh, yeah. They're pretty covers. They're all backwards, but, they're
that's how it is when it comes to videos. Folks, go check out Lauren. She has a beautiful book stuff. Go check out her TikTok, and you'll get more insight to things. And go look at all these people's beautiful stuff. Help Eddie out. He's on the free notified thing. so you can do it for free and sign up to get notified. I think that's everything. And on this show, when we ended, I press the button, and where it stops,